There is a passive kind of faith where the gods are completely removed and you may believe in them, you may disbelieve in them, and you may argue against them or for them. And there is an active faith where you can embody the gods. You can become the tools of gods and their manifestation in the physical world, essentially. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert D. Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. Now, I want to talk to you about faith and religion, and I think I have a great idea of how to sort of refurbish this topic completely, but let's start with the beginning. I would claim there are two types of faith possible: passive faith and active faith. Now, what we're dealing with today, in terms of like religion and faith and things like that, is, I would claim, passive faith. Like, this is what I would call passive faith. This is the faith that we know about. This is when people are like just believe in God or don't believe in God, or believe in Allah or don't believe in Allah. Like, somehow you never hear this, right? You only hear believe in God or not believe in God. Like, there are no atheists among other religions, only Christian atheists. But anyways, I've already mentioned this in one of my previous videos about religion. Watch them. I'm gonna link them in the description, by the way. So, you do what the church tells you, right? This is the passive faith we're continuing. And all the arguments for and against the God or the gods are from this opera, so to speak. All the atheism versus believer kind of crap, all the religious literature, all the anti-religious literature are all concerning this, what I would call passive faith. So these are all like arguments about like whether God or gods are real, and whether this God is more real than this other God, you know, Batman versus Spider-Man kind of struggle, etc., etc. Watch my video about, you know, how gods and religion came about. However, I would claim that this is not the only faith that's possible, and like, this was a kind of a revelation to me. I think somebody in recent, like 1,000 years of people thinking about religion quite a lot, somebody must have come up with this idea, but I haven't seen it yet. So maybe I'm the first one. I have no idea. But anyways, so this was passive faith, where you just, the gods are somewhere out there, and you may believe in them, you may not believe in them. It's ultimately your personal choice, perhaps, or whatever. So all these gnoseological, you know, arguments go here. But if you consider, we're kind of slowly crawling into the active faith kind of realm. If you consider my video about perpendicular worlds, watch it in the description, by the way, where I claim that gods do exist. I mean, it's not a question. I mean, it's obvious. Like, gods as like some entities in the name of which something is done, at the very least, or something is done as if they existed, alright? So they definitely do exist, and it's kind of stupid to argue against it. I mean, you know, I mean, it's just so obvious that it's kind of like a flat earther kind of argument, you know. Atheists are actually worse than flat earthers, I would claim, because they kind of spend almost like half of their lives fighting against something they claim doesn't exist. So what are they even doing? I mean, the very existence of atheists like proves the existence of gods, if you wish. I mean, it's kind of obvious, I think. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so vigorous, you know, about their hatred towards gods. But these are gods from the world of meaning, as I've said. The gods do not exist in the world of physics. It would be stupid to claim they do, actually. In this sense, you may agree with atheists. It's just that they focus only on the physical world. They completely ignore the whole world of meaning. And once again, I reference my previous videos, singular, about it. So in the world of meaning, there are gods, and some of them, if not most of them, if not all of them actually, are associated with some strong ideas, you know, like the proverbial, you know, ancient polytheism. There's a god of this, there's a god of that, there's a god of mercy, of justice, of trade, of night, of day, of water, of, you know, everything pretty much, right? And all of these things are sort of ideas. They all exist in the world of meaning. and the things, all the associative, like series related to them also exist in the world of meaning. However, in this video, I also claim what? That the world of meaning is not completely separate from the world of physics, right? So my claim, let's just kind of summarize it. Gods do exist, but they do exist in the world of meaning. However, there's also the world of physics, through which you perceive me right now, for example, even though, well, never mind. I also claimed in this video that living beings are kind of the portals, the doorways between the world of meaning and the world of physics, right? And it's kind of obvious. We can sort of perceive gods from the world of meaning, and not only gods, any ideas really, any perceptions, any values, any judgments, anything like that. But we also can perceive stuff from the physical world, right? So we're kind of, you know, one leg in one world, as I've said, and another in another, and I'm not gonna repeat the spider joke, by the way. But anyways, this, I believe, allows us to arrive at the concept of active faith, what I would call the active faith, which is, since the gods are in the world of meaning, there are no gods in the world of physics, how would you, like, be a faithful believer of your God? You would manifest your God, which exists in the world of meaning, in the world of physics. You become the doorway of your God to the world of physics. You become the physical emanation of your God in the world of physics. You become the weapon, the tool of your God in the world of physics. Isn't that kind of cool? This is the active faith. So in the passive faith, we say, well, the gods are somewhere out there. Maybe they do exist, maybe they don't exist. In the active faith, we say, gods do exist, and I'm gonna manifest them right here in this physical world where there are no gods. But they are in my soul, if you wish, in my, you know, mental sensorium, in my, the world of meaning that I'm connected to. I know they are out there. Maybe they even, like, communicate some ideas to me, you know. I mean, this kind of sounds schizophrenic at this point, but you get the idea. The mild version of this, right? There is an idea of justice. Let me manifest the idea of justice in the physical world. The physical world, like, doesn't care. It doesn't have any justice in it. It's completely, like, vague, not vague, what's the word, like, empty, you know, it's empty of meaning because it's the world of physics, it's not the world of meaning. The world of physics is full of, like, chaos and decay, like, stuff degenerate and falls apart here. We have to kind of bring in meaning into it. Well, have to is the moralistic judgment, but I'm gonna save this for the end of this video, all these caveats. So, we are, as entities, not entities, like beings connected to both the world of meaning and the world of physics, we may manifest the world of meaning in the world of physics, for example, by kind of embodying or becoming tools of the gods that we believe in, right? The ideas we want to be true, that we want to be true. That's kind of the idea of active faith, like you become the tool of your God, of whatever God you want, really. And there is evidence that, you know, during polytheistic stage, people have been doing so. Like, there are clear signs, I think, of this sort of active faith with, you know, pretty much every God have been anthropomorphized, if that's the word, you know. So the ideas were given in the flesh. It's like, this is how you should look like if you are to embody this idea, something like this, you know. And then maybe people actually did embody these ideas. I mean, all the priests of any gods would have to kind of, almost by virtue of their profession, be some sort of conduits of these gods into the world of physics, into the physical world where, you know, people walk and talk and do all the other stuff. So yeah, the priests were doing this, and arguably, I mean, since the priests were also elected often, like different people had to do the same thing, kind of embody the Batman or the Spider-Man, depending on the season, depending on the election cycle and things like that. I mean, in ancient Greece and Rome, etc. With monotheism, however, and by the way, like a big caveat here, I'm not claiming I made some sort of historical, I guess, discovery about religion. some sort of discovery about the history of religion, like how polytheism worked or whatever the hell, I don't really care, to be honest. What I do care is that both active and passive faith are possible today. They're possible for me and for you, and they are relevant, okay? Because these are way that we live our lives, or we can live our lives. And I think, this is again a moralistic judgment, an active faith type of living is an order of magnitude better than the passive faith, but we'll return to this in a minute. Let's once again return to supposedly what happened during monotheism, even though, as I've just said, it doesn't really matter whether that's what actually happened, okay? So in monotheistic transition, like from polytheism to monotheism, like all these different gods kind of blended into a single god, right? And it became sort of a problem because now you cannot really manifest the God, because you kind of have to be everything at once, which is kind of not possible. You have to be almighty, all just, all merciful, all knowing, all everything. And this is kind of like, what? How do I be all of that? So it's kind of by definition impossible, right? So now the monotheistic God is forever removed into this passive faith kind of area. And so it kind of breaks this cycle. Breaks this practice of active faith, I think, all right? And that's why we have no idea that it's even possible right now, even though I just told you how it's possible, and it is very possible. You don't have to be very smart to actually do it, okay? However, even in monotheistic thing, I still think the prophets were the manifestations of gods in this sense. The prophets were active believers. In what sense? Well, the prophets themselves, like Jesus or Muhammad or whatever, they were also, or Buddhas in Buddhism, right? They were also like wise, strong, merciful, just. They were all these good things, you know, just as their gods or gods in Buddhism, you know, the other Buddhas, enlightened, you know, they were all those things, the prophets. And I think that the point the prophets were making is, well, at least one of the points, I don't know, maybe like Gnostic, whatever, never mind. So one of the points of the very existence of prophets is that you can actually emulate them. You can copy them. Like, they were all those good things. Why aren't you all of those good things? Why are you just sitting on your bench in your church and praying instead of just doing those things yourself? Like, what the hell? This is kind of pathetic, honestly. Once again, a moralistic judgment, right? So ultimately, what do I propose here is some sort of like a hyper-Protestantism, you might call it, where, you know, supposedly, according to legend, Catholic Church said, well, you need us, you need the church to connect to God. Whereas Protestants came and said, well, you don't really need church, you can talk to God right away, you know, on your own. Whereas what I'm saying is that you don't even have to talk to God. You can be God yourself, manifest God, be the weapon of God, be the hand of your God, right? Whatever the God you want, actually, right? Whatever the God you choose to manifest in this world, really. So yeah. So once again, a caveat. What I'm saying here, it has a factual side and a moralistic side, or a value-driven side, right? So the factual side of what I'm saying is there is a passive faith. I've just described it. It's just like when the gods are completely removed from you and you can believe in them, you can disbelieve in them, you can argue again about them, etc. And there is a active kind of faith. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's reiterate. There is a passive kind of faith where the gods are completely removed and you may believe in them, you may disbelieve in them, and you may argue against them or for them. And there is an active faith where you can embody the gods. You can become the tools of gods and their manifestation in the physical world, essentially. And I'm not gonna make this cut, by the way. I'm gonna leave this repetition just for you to understand. Some people need it to be repeated twice. So this is the factual side. You can't argue against it because it's just plain, obviously simple, what I've said. And now comes the moralistic side. I claim the active faith is much cooler. It's much better. And I would like everyone to do it. You know, passive faith sucks. It's just pointless. Like, what's the point arguing against idea ultimately? Like, yes, there is an idea. Like, Atheists argue idea doesn't exist, but the idea certainly does exist. Many people think it's true. Like, how do you argue against the idea? Are you stupid? Like, you know, you may say that the God doesn't exist in the physical world, and I would completely agree. But the God doesn't exist, period, is wrong. It's demonstrably, clearly wrong. But whatever. And on the other hand, the believers in God, they're so pathetic. Like, what are you doing? You're just sitting on your asses doing nothing, thinking, like, hoping that the Jesus will come and save you. Like, what? Yo! You know? Just be the manifestation of your God. Your God is all just, almighty. Become all just and almighty. Or at least somewhat just and somewhat mighty, you know? You see injustice in the world, you say, no. I'm gonna rectify it. I'm gonna correct it. You know, I'm gonna be the hand of my God. My God wants justice. I'm here to deliver it, you know, because I believe in my God, right? Like, who am I? Like, what kind of a believer I am if I'm kind of not correcting the injustice or whatever, like, you know, something bad that happens in the world. Like, this is just hypocrisy, I think. You're pathetic. You're sitting and waiting for someone else to do the job for you. This, I mean, I can expect, I mean, for women, it's completely fine, by the way, because it's their role in society. They just sit and wait, and like, when a good guy comes along, like they join him, okay? This is sexist, obviously, but what are you gonna do? But for men, this is pathetic. Like, please don't do it. Please don't participate in passive faith, because it's completely useless, first and foremost, and secondly, again, it's pathetic. I don't have any other word for it. Like, you either believe in your God, then you manifest your God with your actions, your own actions, or you don't believe in your God, and then you don't manifest it, the period. Okay? So, yeah, once again, probably everything I've said just now is blasphemous in every religion ever, maybe, but I think, like, look, this approach is very general. Notice I never said you have to manifest this sort of deity, you know? You may manifest anything. Dionysus, Apollo, Themis, you know, Artemis, Buddha, like Confucius, even though he wasn't a god, you know, whatever entity, even like, you know, fantasy games, or like, you know, sci-fi gods or whatever. Like, really, you can do whatever, and this is the beauty of it, you know. This is an approach. It's extremely general, and this is the modern way to do faith, I think. I just discovered the modern way to do faith. Even more so, check this out. You can even manifest devil or evil spirits, you know. As Christians say, the devil is the, you know, the host of this world. He's the master of this world. So you may manifest like things like destruction and evil and betrayal and greed, etc. But just watch out, because, you know, watch your back, because if you choose to manifest all these things I just listed, and for example, I choose to manifest justice, I'll you up. Thank you for watching. The eons are closing. If you wish to support me, please consider joining my Patreon. That is patreon.com/philosopher. See the link in the description. Or if you have a scientific theory of your own and you'd like my help in developing it, please join my alternative science coaching program, also available through Patreon.